kunja vihari. Gopi jana ballabha girivaradhari. Gopi jana ballabha girivaradhari. Yasoda nandana braja janaranjana. Yasoda nandana braja janaranjana. Yamuna tira vanachari. Yamuna tira vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi jana ballabha girivaradhari. Gopi jana ballabha girivaradhari. Yasoda nandana braja janaranjana. Yasoda nandana braja janaranjana. Yasoda nandana braja janaranjana. Yamuna tira vanachari. Yamuna tira vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Brahmacharya Tarasi Samad. His Divine Grace Srila Asa Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Brahmacharya Tarasi Samad. Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Guru Parampara Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dhama Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is Ki. Sadhu Sangha Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Go Premananda Hari Hari Bo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All together, please. Om Jnana Timarandasya Ganandana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stabitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Ukta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarvadutam Prajana Sahitam Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padang Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapcha Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhana Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakaupa Charubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Bhavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is. Translation and commentary, Srila Prabhupada. Today, verse number 5, chapter 12, devotional service. So, please repeat. Kleśo, dhika-taras, teṣām, avyaktāsakta-cetasām, avyakta, gatir, duḥkhaṁ, dehavadbhir, avāpyate, kleśo dhika-taras teṣām, avyaktāsakta-cetasām, gatir duḥkhaṁ, dehavadbhir avāpyate, kleśo dhika-taras teṣām, avyaktāsakta-cetasām, gatir duḥkhaṁ, dehavadbhir avāpyate. Okay, go ahead. avyaktam adhika-taras teṣām cetasām avyakta teṣām hi bhaktam Okay. Adhika-taras teṣām avyaktāsakta-cetasām gatir duḥkhaṁ dehavadbhir avāpyate kleśo adhika-taras teṣām avyaktāsakta-cetasām dehavadbhir avāpyate. Okay, word for word, please repeat. kleśaḥ, trouble. adhika-taraḥ, very much. teṣām, of them. avyakta, to the unmanifest. āsakta, attached. teṣām, of those whose minds. avyakta, toward the unmanifested. He, certainly. gatiḥ, progress. duḥkhaṁ, with trouble. dehavadbhir, by the embodied. avāpyate, is achieved. So, translation Srila Prabhupada. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. Please repeat. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. Purport Srila Prabhupada. The group of transcendentalists who follow the path of the inconceivable, unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord are called jñāna-yogīs. And persons who are in full Krishna consciousness, engaged in devotional service to the Lord, are called bhakti-yogīs. Now, here the difference between jñāna-yoga and bhakti-yoga is definitely expressed. The process of jñāna-yoga, although ultimately bringing one to the same goal, is very troublesome, whereas the path of bhakti-yoga, the process of being in direct service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is easier and is natural for the embodied soul. The individual soul is embodied since time immemorial, and it is very difficult for him to simply theoretically understand that he is not the body. Therefore, the bhakti-yogī accepts the deity of Kṛṣṇa as worshipable because there is some bodily conception fixed in the mind. Which can thus be applied. Of course, worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his form within the temple is not idol worship. There is evidence in the Vedic literature that worship may be sagun or nirgun, of the Supreme possessing or not possessing attributes. Worship of the deity in the temple is sagun worship. For the Lord is represented by material qualities. But the form of the Lord, though represented by material qualities, such as stone, wood, or oil paint, is not actually material. That is the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord. A crude example may be given here. We may find some mailboxes on the street, and if we post our letters in those boxes, they will naturally go to their destination without difficulty. But any old box or an imitation which we may find somewhere, but which is not authorized by the post office, will not do the work. Similarly, God has an authorized representation in the deity form, which is called Archa Vigraha. This Archa Vigraha is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. God will accept service through that form. The Lord is omnipotent, all-powerful. Therefore, by his incarnation as Archa Vigraha, he can accept the services of the devotee just to make it convenient for the man in conditioned life. So, for a devotee, there is no difficulty in approaching the Supreme immediately and directly. But for those who are always following the impersonal way to spiritual realization, the path is difficult. They have to understand the unmanifested representation of the Supreme through such Vedic literatures as the Upanishads, and they have to learn the language, understand the non-perceptual feelings, and realize all these processes. This is not very easy for a common man. A person in Krishna consciousness, engaged in devotional service, simply by the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, simply by offering regulative obeisances unto the deity, simply by hearing the glories of the Lord, and simply by eating the remnants of foodstuffs offered to the Lord, realizes the Supreme Personality very easily. There is no doubt that the impersonalists are unnecessarily taking a troublesome path, with the risk of not realizing the absolute truth at the ultimate end. But the personalist, without any risk, trouble, or difficulty, approaches the Supreme Personality directly. A similar passage appears in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is stated there that if one ultimately has to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this surrendering process is called bhakti, but instead takes trouble to understand what is Brahman and what is not Brahman, and spends his whole life in that way, the result is simply troublesome. Therefore, it is advised here that one should not take up this troublesome path of self-realization, because there is uncertainty in the ultimate result. A living entity is eternally an individual soul, and if he wants to merge into the spiritual whole, he may accomplish the realization of the eternal and noble aspects of his original nature, but the blissful portion is not realized. By the grace of some devotee, such a transcendentalist, highly learned in the process of jñāna-yoga, may come to the point of bhakti-yoga or devotional service. At that time, long practice in impersonalism also becomes a source of trouble. At that time, because he cannot give up the impersonal idea. Therefore, an embodied soul is always in difficulty with the unmanifest, both at the at the time of practice and at the time of realization. Every living soul is partially independent, and one should know for certain that this unmanifested realization is against the nature of his spiritual blissful self. One should not take up this process. For every individual living entity, the process of Krishna consciousness, which entails full engagement in devotional service, is the best way. If one wants to ignore this devotional service, there is the danger of turning to atheism. Thus, the process of centering attention on the unmanifested and the inconceivable which is beyond the approach of the senses, as already expressed in this verse, should never be encouraged at any time, especially in this age. It is not advised by Lord Krishna. So Prabhupada ends on a wonderful sentence, right? It is not advised by Lord Krishna. Impersonalism, Mayavadi or monism approach to the absolute truth is not advised by the absolute truth himself, Lord Krishna. So, mukham karochi vachalam pangam yadkripatamaham vande Shri Gurun dinadharinam kleśo dhika-taras teṣām avyaktāsakta-cetasām avyakta duḥkhaṁ deha-vadbhiḥ avāpyate. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. Yes, so the discussion point here is, hello? Tell them to be quiet, yeah? So the point of discussion here is personalism or impersonalism. Is the absolute truth personal or impersonal? Now we know from the Shastra that the absolute truth is both personal and impersonal. The absolute truth is inclusive of everything. The absolute truth we have seen from the 11th chapter is inclusive of the material energy. The Naimitika Leela, the Virat Rupa, that is Krishna. That is the absolute truth. Krishna in the Virat Rupa is showing Arjuna how I supervise the karma of all living entities. My position as super soul, I'm supervising karma, and I am supervising the results of karma for the living entities. But that is the absolute truth. It is the form of Krishna. We have already learnt 3 basic forms of Krishna, the Virat Rupa, the 4-handed Narayan form, and we have learnt the 2-handed Shyam Sundar form. They are all the absolute truth. At the Bhagavatam, beginning of the Bhagavatam, what did it say? Vedanta. Those that know the absolute truth know it is Brahman, Paramatma, Vishnu form, and Bhagavan, Krishna form. So they're all the absolute truth. But that doesn't include the material energy, but actually the material energy is part of the absolute truth. It is a manifestation of Krishna. Everything is spiritual. Vasudeva Savam Iti. Sa Mahatma Sadulabha. Okay, so the absolute truth is variegated. And we can break that variegatedness down into, in this context here, personal and impersonal. Aksharam means beyond the senses, and avyakta, non-manifest. These are the words in the Sanskrit in this section. The impersonal is not perceived by the senses. It is unmanifest. But the person is manifest. Krishna is manifest before Arjuna. So there's a big discussion, always will be, but the Vaishnavas are quite clear. The personal is higher than the impersonal. Why? One simple reason. You put your hand up? No. Okay, which is higher, the sun which is the personal form, or the sunlight? Huh? Yes, the sun. Why? The sun is the source of the sunlight, right? Without the sunlight, without the sun, there is no sunlight. Without Shakti Mam, the origin of Shakti, there is no Shakti. Without the electric station, there is no electricity. But somebody may argue, the sun is not higher than the sunlight because you cannot see the sunlight. It is aksharam, it is beyond the senses. It is avyakta, it is unmanifest. But the sun you can see in the sky. So the sunlight is mystical. It is expanded everywhere. But the sun is in one place. So Krishna, he is in one place, Kurukshetra, but the Brahman is everywhere. So people may say, this inconceivable, unlimited energy, this consciousness is the highest manifestation. But the answer is very simple. In logic, we can use two things, Shastra and we can use logic. By logic, this is very simple. It is explained that wherever there is Krishna, there is his bodily effulgence, right? When Nrsimhadev appeared, he was effulgent. The impersonal Brahmajyoti, when Vishnu appeared to Dhruva Maharaj, he was effulgent. On the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Krishna is effulgent on the battlefield. So the simple answer is that the Brahman, the Brahmajyoti, the unmanifested, is under the control, it is the emanation of the personal. It's not difficult to understand if we are reasonable. But Prabhupada says that in the purport, does he not? He says those that sometimes they have trouble giving up this idea. This is also, what's that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita? Mayavadi Bhashya Bhakti Sunela Nyas. That if you take to Mayavadi thought, it will kill bhakti. Even though Shankaracharya says, Bhaja Govindam, Mujamate, Nahi Rakshati Dukrin Karine. So the personal form is the source of the impersonal. Just in the same way that we have energy, right? We, humble human beings, we have energy. That energy is under our control. I have energy. I can read a book, or I can use my energy to cook food, or I can use my energy to go shopping. I can use my energy to chant japa. The energy is under the control of the person. So this is the simple answer, according to logic. We accept the personal as supreme because the personal is the source of the impersonal. But now you should be well aware that in the commentary of Shankaracharya, the opposite is hinted at. And that has caused a lot of confusion in the Vedic path. Now that's very interesting because in India there are these two groups, the impersonalist and the personalist, right? One believes, no, impersonal is highest, and the other think, no, personal is highest. So I was brought up in Manchester, right? My family's Irish, but they moved to England. So I was brought up in religious schools by nuns when I was little, and then by monks when I was older. And they were talking about God. But there was never any talk about the impersonal conception of God. I was brought up, of course, in the Christian tradition, right? Catholic idea. There is God. He's the creator. There's no talk about the Brahman effulgence or the energy. They have a very primitive idea, a man-made idea of God. But the idea of impersonal God, God as energy, God as nirguna, as without attributes, that is absent. In the West, like that, in that environment, the question is there God or is there not God? Does God exist or does he not exist? And the God is always personal. But in India, there is a third idea. Does God not exist? Does he exist as a person, or does he exist as impersonal? So there's three. You can have the choice. Is God zero? And the materialistic scientists, they believe that. They believe there was nothing, then there was a big bang, and then there was everything. So they say the absolute truth, the source, is nothing. And then the theists come along and they say, no, there is God, because there is design in the creation. So there must be a personal designer. But then the impersonalists come along, and this is in India more than any other country in the world, and they say, God is impersonal. He is energy. And we are part of that absolute energy. So we are all God. The problem is, we haven't realized we're God. But if we meditate upon the Brahman, the impersonal, inconceivable, and we fix our consciousness on that unlimited ocean of energy, and we merge our consciousness with that ocean of impersonal energy, then we will become God. Very attractive idea. I will become God. At the moment, the boss is shouting at me every day. The wife is shouting at me every day. The children are crying at me every day. And you tell me I can become God? Sounds very nice to me. And all I have to do is go beyond the illusion of this world. My boss is the illusion. My wife is an illusion. My children, they are illusion. There is only one absolute truth, and that is the pure energy of Brahman. And that's what I am. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. All right? This is the Mayavadi philosophy, right? Impersonalism. There's different colors here and there, but this is basically the idea. But that's very difficult to become God because somebody already has the job. And this is Krishna says, Sri Bhagavan Vacha. In the previous chapter, Arjuna has said to Krishna, Param Dharma, Pavitram, Paramam, Pamam, you're Purushottam, you're the supreme abode, you are the supreme shelter, and Asita Devala Vyas is saying that about you. All Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, the six Goswamis, Lord Chaitanya, all the great acharyas, they're saying Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, as it is in the Shastra. But I still think, no, I'm going to be God. And then my wife will love me more, and the children will love me more. And when I'm God, I'll control the boss by my supreme power. So you can understand that Krishna already has the job. Hiranyakashipu thought he could kill Vishnu, right? This is the materialistic vision. I am in the material world because I want to be Ishvara. I want to be controller. And after I have control, I want to be bhogi. Ishvaro aham bhogi. I am controlling and enjoying. So any philosophy that comes forward and says you can become the Ishvara, you can enjoy. Because if everything is illusion, jagat mithya, then you can do anything, right? I can steal money, I can cheat, I can lie, because it's all illusion. It doesn't matter. Just like in the dream at night, I dream that a tiger is chasing me, but it's just an illusion, it doesn't matter. So this world is all illusion. So why I should pay tax to the government, why I should be faithful to the wife, why I should do my duty, it's all illusion. Why I should clean the street outside. When I eat an ice cream, why don't I just throw the paper on the floor? Why don't I leave kachara everywhere? It's all illusion. It's all the absolute truth. So you see that impersonalism ruins society and it makes people mad. In the West, like I say, if somebody thinks I am God, he goes to the doctor, the mental doctor, and he says, I am God. The doctor or the nurse will say, okay, sit down there, the doctor is coming. Sit down there next to Napoleon and Genghis Khan, and sit down there next to Jesus. You're God, so you're in charge of them all. But don't worry, the doctor is coming. But in India, if you say, I am God, then people give you donation. Not everyone. No, it's becoming less. But you see the point? You see the point? People are saying, like I was talking to one devotee, we were going to the Gurukul, he came back, he showed me on his phone, there is somebody, and they say he is controlling ghosts, and he's doing magic tricks. And people say, he is Hanuman. So, this is all Mayavad. He is Hanuman, he is God, he is Jesus, I am Genghis Khan. Once you lose touch with the personal aspect of Godhead, then you lose touch with sanity and morality. You have no mooring post. You know, just like you have a boat and you tie it to a post in the harbor and it's fixed. So without the personal aspect of God and the advice given in the Gita and in the Shastra and the development of consciousness through devotion, you cannot develop higher faculties. And the reason is very simple. As Prabhupada says here in the purport, that the devotee, he offers obeisances to the deity, he offers tulsi to the deity, he offers some laddu to the deity, and Prabhupada says he realizes the Supreme Personality, realizes, not just believes, but he factually experiences, he realizes Krishna. Why? Teṣām satata yuktānam bhajitam pritiborvakam dadami buddhi-yogam tam yenamam upayanti te. So that is the power of bhakti. Some tulsi leaf, that is not such a powerful thing. Some laddus offering to the deity, that is not such a powerful thing. Reading the Shastra is not, you're just reading. You're not fasting all day. You're not eating 2 chickpeas for breakfast, 5 chickpeas for lunch, and 3 chickpeas at night. You're not doing great austerity. But why is bhakti so powerful? Because Krishna responds. Because if you relate to the absolute truth as he is, as a person, you get the personal response. You understand? Very simple. That is the special power of bhakti, that it attracts the Supreme Person. Therefore, the next sloka, what is that? Teṣām evanukampātam aham ajñāna jamtama nashyāmi atma bhavashto jñāna-dīpena bhashvita. So therefore, to realize the absolute truth is very easy. All you have to do is go to the temple and with a little faith, a little pay obeisances, Krishna, you are Bhagavan, you please bless me with understanding. And we discussed a couple of classes ago, right? The gileri, the squirrel. Hanuman was throwing huge rocks into the ocean to make the bridge. But then there was one squirrel and he was throwing sand into the ocean. So Hanuman said, hey, sir, you go to the side. I'm throwing these big rocks. So Ramchandra, of course that is Hanuman's Leela, Yogamaya, but Ramchandra said to Hanuman, wait a minute, Ram, he is just as dear to me as you are. You are throwing big rocks. That is your capacity. He is throwing a little sand, but he is my devotee just as much as you are. So that, just try to understand that the squirrel throwing a little sand in the ocean gets the mercy of Krishna. But the yogi in the cave, Om Mani Padme Hum, I merge with the absolute, with the inconceivable. He may be doing that for many millions of years. But the squirrel is making better advancement. He is getting enlightened within the consciousness, within the heart by Krishna. So this is the secret of bhakti. Impersonalism, Krishna makes the point. It's difficult because you have a body. But also it's natural to worship Krishna in his bodily form because that's what he is. But his bodily form is not limited. And what is the Leela in Krishna book, 10th canto? The children, they say to Mother Yashoda, Mother Yashoda, Krishna is eating dirt. Krishna, come here. You are eating dirt. No, they're telling lies, Mother. Come here, Krishna, open your mouth. Let me see. She looked inside, and within Krishna, she could see the whole universal creation. And she could see herself within Krishna, looking in the mouth of Krishna. So the form of Krishna, we must understand, yes, it is localized in terms of Leela and perception, but it is not a form like our material form. You understand? And therefore it is said that everything, it emanates from Krishna, but we see from that Leela, it stays within Krishna. Everything is within Krishna. Krishna is within, Krishna is without. Krishna is beyond material logic. We think in terms of personal, impersonal, inside, outside, up, down, because that is the material energy. The material energy is mechanistic. It runs according to formulas. But the spiritual energy is not bound by any logic. The spiritual energy, Krishna is the source of logic. Logic is his plaything. He can expand 1,000,000 universes and still keep those universes within himself. He can create 1,000,000,000 universes and not experience any loss. He can put the universe, the whole creation, on the tip of a pin. It is explained that Krishna is in the guha. The guha means the deepest part. He is within the soul. So he is within the soul. He is soul of the soul. But if Krishna is within the soul, that means the whole creation is within the soul. Try to understand. Mother Yashoda looked inside Krishna and saw everything. So if Krishna is inside the soul, and Krishna has everything within him, within the soul we have the whole universe. We have the whole creation. And that is the absolute truth. It is beyond logic. The form of Krishna, the potency of Krishna. The creation is unlimited. There is no end point of the creation. There's no end point to the form of Krishna, his ability. And his mercy is unlimited. This is the important point. His mercy is unlimited. So, patram pushvam phalam toyam yo me bhakti priyashati. If you just take a little leaf, a patram, a tulsi leaf, you offer to Krishna, you evoke the unlimited mercy of Krishna. So which is higher, the personal or the impersonal? And so we see in the Shastra, verse 15, Hiranmayena patrena satyasya pahitam mukam tatvam pushvam aparvrinu satya dharmaya dristaye. O my Lord, sustainer of all that lives, your real face is covered by your dazzling effulgence. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your pure devotee. So there it is. That is Vedavyas. The effulgence, all the forms of Krishna, wherever the form of Krishna is, the effulgence is there. And that effulgence is based on the form, just in the same way that the sunlight is based on the form of the sun. So this is important because we have to have siddhanta. You understand? Siddhanta means we have siddhanta, perfect conclusion. The process of yoga is to meditate on the absolute truth. But to meditate very successfully and quickly realize Krishna, we should have the right understanding. You understand? If we think the absolute truth is impersonal, that is okay. Yes. But the ultimate position, the Purushottam, the Param Satyam, is the personal form. And so when we chant japa, we don't think of the Brahman, we don't think of Paramatma, we think of the Leela of Krishna, Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. That is Siddhanta. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, thank you all very much. Any question?
You said material energy is also spiritual and quoted that Vasudev Sarvam. How will you explain this?
I didn't quite catch what you said.
You said material energy is spiritual as Vasudev Sarvam.
Do you understand? Yes, Vasudeva Savamiti.
But material energy is also spiritual, you said. Material energy is dead. How can it be spiritual?
I don't understand your accent. What is it?
You said
how can material be Krishna? What is the question?
You said material energy is spiritual.
I said what? Well, material is part of the absolute truth, yes. But we say spiritual material because from our point of view, we want to separate ourselves from material energy and we want to go to the spiritual energy. But ultimately, everything is spiritual. It's just a word. Everything is part of the Param Satyam. It's the Supreme Absolute Truth. But within that Supreme Absolute Truth, the variety is that Purushottam is Krishna. But everything is spiritual. Ultimately. And therefore, Prabhupada says in the purport there, right? The deity in the temple, that is spiritual because it is the authorized form. It is spiritual. You see, material means in the separated from God, right? That's how we think. But actually, everything is connected to the Supreme Lord. You understand? Sutre mani gana iva. Everything is resting upon Krishna. But for the establishing the right understanding, we say there is the material creation and the spiritual creation. Right? This is vocabulary. But we understand that they're both spiritual ultimately, because they're coming from Krishna. You see my point? But using language, sometimes imperfections may be there. But we say, okay, this is material, and this is a materialistic person. It means that they are not interested in spirit. So when we're in the material world, the acharyas and Krishna, they have made this paradigm, you understand, this construction, matter and spirit, right? But ultimately, because everything has emanated from Krishna, it is all ultimately spirit. Do you see the point? So both points should be understood. There is one kind of energy which is the Maya Shakti, the achit, unconscious, material energy. And then there is the conscious, spiritual energy. There is the Mahamaya, and then there is Yoga Maya. So ultimately, it is all the creation of Krishna. So it is all linked to Krishna. Vasudeva Savamiti. But if we are to make progress out of the Maya Shakti, we should distinguish that this is not what I want to meditate on. I don't want to become meditating on politics, you understand, and social theory. I want to meditate on the absolute truth. I want to meditate on Krishna in Goloka, in Gokul. So everything is Krishna, but there are different categories. So according to what we focus on, like if we focus on alcohol, we go to alcohol, right? And that is a bad result. But if we focus on Krishna, we go to Krishna. But the alcohol is part of the potency of Krishna, is it not? In the final analysis, because there's nothing separate from Krishna. There is not Krishna's section and the devil's section. Sometimes material people have this idea. There is heaven, and God is in heaven, and then there is hell. And hell is the devil's place, and heaven is God's place. And God doesn't go to hell. So that in this material world, people think in this yin and yang, right? But really, everything is ultimately the absolute truth. But there is variety, and that is important. So according to what we desire, it is all a matter of desire. If we desire dhanam, wealth, followers, position, children, a dynasty, so on, then we work in that direction. But if we want Krishna, we work in that direction. And Krishna says, Ye tamam prapadyante tamsteva bhajamiyaham. Right? All of them, as they surrender unto me, I reward accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all degrees. So if you become a liar, a cheat, a drunkard, you're following a path. But ultimately it's Krishna's path, right? Krishna has made the material energy in such a way, if you by your choice go in that direction, okay? But if somebody goes in the spiritual direction, he tries to live a pure life, he reads the scripture, he tries chanting, so on, then he gets a different result, right? Therefore there is punishment and reward. Even in material life, right? If somebody serves Bharat very well in the army or the navy, then they get a medal, right? But if somebody is a criminal, land mafia, then they get put in the jail. So punishment, reward. So the yogi understands just that one thing. I always mention it, that we are architects of our destination. Our destiny, where we are going, we are creating by our choice. You understand? If we become kind, generous, well-disposed, we tell the truth, we're not greedy, and we do bhajan, then we're going in a very nice, fine direction. So there is variety. And the devotee knows, I can read the scripture, I can associate with devotees, but it is my choice. It is my choice that takes me to the spiritual world or keeps me in the material world. Right? So everything is the absolute truth. And everything is governed by Krishna. But according to how we choose, we get a result. And so in bhakti, it doesn't matter if you're young, old, male, female, very smart, not smart, educated, not educated. All you have to do is, like Prabhupada says, go to Krishna and say, Krishna, you are Bhagavan. You please give me your shelter. Anyone can do, right? Is that clear? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you all very much. See you next week.